Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Simply Living. I'm here again with my husband, Joshua.
What's up?
And in case you don't know, I'm Cody. And today we want to talk about comparison and not comparing ourselves to others in an age of social media where it's very easy to see what other people are doing, see what they're looking like, see how their life is, and compare our lives to them. But I believe God calls us to just focus on what He has for us, focus on Him, focus on the calling He has for us, the purpose He has for us, His will for us, and not compare our paths and our purposes, our successes or career paths with others or our journeys with others, and just stay humble and stay in our lane. As I've heard a friend of mine said that humility, what she heard from like a book I think that she read, humility means to stay in your God-given space. Stay in your God-given space. So it's that means staying in remembering the identity that God's given you, staying in that space and not going outside, and God's calling for your life. So a lot of times when we compare ourselves to others, we're seeing, oh my goodness, they have this singing career and they look so successful and I'm not like that and I want to be like that. So we get out of the path that God has for us, that He's calling us to do and wanting us to obey, and try to go emulate, or is that the right word? Imitate, I'll just say. Imitate what they're doing and what they did outside of what God actually told you to do, to try to be like them, because we see that that's the life that we want. And that's when we're getting outside of God's will for us, and that's when we're not being humble because we think that we can do it on our own. So, yes, I want to talk about humility. And last note on this, before I see if Joshua has anything to say as we intro and start off, was when we're not comparing ourselves to other people and we're staying focused on God and what He's calling us to do, not dealing with jealousy and things like that, we don't have all that, we can live simply because we're not worried about what they're thinking or what they're doing. We're not, we're just living. We're just like, yeah, let's go about our path and just live the life God called us to, and not feel pressured or fearful or try to do all that stuff. And because we're staying in our lane, it's right for us. It's good for us. And so we're not dealing with maybe more obstacles that we would be if we're outside of our lane. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think all of that is really good, what you were saying. I was just listening to everything you were saying. Sorry, that's why I was being quiet.
Oh, it's okay. I just tried to leave room because I felt like sometimes I say so many things and have so many thoughts and just want to finish them, but I'm like, I wonder if they have other person has something to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. Comparison, it's one of those things that I feel like it stems from a lot of other things. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is what you think success is. I feel like a lot of times at least for me, the reason I would compare myself to someone else is because I'm trying to measure success. And if I see success in somebody else, what I think is success, that's when the comparison starts, Or another way would be if I am selfish, like this person has this thing that I want, success or not, it's like, oh, they get to do this, I want to do that, or I want to have that, or I want to go to that place, but right now I can't. So there's two. And I guess the third one would just be not being secure in who I am. I guess you can put identity, that's a deep word, but if there is someone that seems like they're doing something with their life, like their job or career, that seems like, wow, they're actually, I think that goes back to success, or what other people, I would want other people to view me as successful. That's why I want their job, I want their house, whatever it is, So anyway, those are the things I was thinking of off the top of my head.
Yeah, the top. No, that's good. I think that's true. Like, a lot of times we're wanting to compare because we see what they're doing as successful. And it could be that that's true, but it's like that's not where we're at right now. Or it could be that our idea of success has been skewed by culture, and we think that their life is going this type of way, and they're living an awesome life and happy all the time, and the whole 9 yards. But in reality, like.
Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time, people say that being rich, famous, popular is the answer, and, that we don't always see that the problems that they face. And there's a quote by Jim Carrey that says, he once said, "I wish everyone could become rich and famous so that they would understand that that's not the solution." And there's another quote by somebody, some poet, I don't know, but she said, "If everyone threw their problems in a pile, we would all reach for ours back." And so basically, we all think we have the worst of the worst life, but if we saw things other people are going through, we're going to take our struggles right back if we see them all in a pile.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And I think something that I struggle with too is like, patience, hard work, and like what it takes to get to a certain point. So like for me, I'd see this person who's like super fit and be like, man, I want to be like that. I'll be like, man, what am I like? Why am I this way, or however I am? Not considering the fact that, well, God has to really remind me that like that's what I'm working toward. Like I'm working out, I'm trying to eat healthy, I'm trying to be healthy. And it's like that person could have worked really hard and spent a lot of time, maybe years, to get to how they are. But I just want it right now. Or like someone out of debt, or who can go eat out whenever they want and buy all these things and go on these vacations, who actually are able to, I'm going to say, they may have worked really hard, and I'm just like, Jesus, please, I still need to be out. So I think he's teaching me to work hard and like just to do what he's called me to. Obviously he could do miracles and do things, but I'm just saying like, we forget the work it takes to get there sometime, I think, or the time it could have taken when we compare. Or even if it didn't take them any time, it's like God has his own journey for us. Maybe it took them 1 second, but for us, the point is like he wants to sanctify us, build our character, and the Bible talks about that, building our character. So we should want to be who God created us to be. Or, I mean, we're all working on that. I say should because that's what I want. I want to be who God created me to be, and be able to live the life that it takes for that to happen.
Yeah. That's good, because that's so true what you said. Like, we often will compare ourselves to something or someone and not realize the time it takes or could take to get to where they are sometimes. And that's a good point. We want things right away. We mentioned that before in one of our podcasts, I think.
Possibly.
There's another quote by somebody else. These quotes are coming back to me.
Praise God.
But they said, it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. So, I mean, it takes work. We got some work for things, that you want. It takes time and patience.
Yeah, dedication.
But speaking to the point of, like, what we're called to do, there's this story that I hope I don't completely botch. I'll try to give the condensed version. But basically, there were two brothers that grew up in the same house, lived in the same house. The first brother walks outside, and he looks up to the sky, and he sees this vision of clouds, and it says PC in the clouds, right? And so he's like, oh, this is the Lord telling me to preach Christ. So he becomes this like minister, this evangelist, and he leads all these people to the Lord, and that's what he did. That's what he took it as. His brother goes outside, and he looks up into the clouds, and it says PC, and becomes a farmer. And years later,
Wait, how did PC become farmer?
Sorry.
My bad. Sorry.
So years later, he has this farm business, but through his farm business, he meets people through his farming, and he leads people to the Lord that way. Like, not evangelism, but it's more through business and the local community and farmers markets and stuff like that. And so there was an interview, and they find out they both saw the same thing in the sky. And they asked the farmer, "So you became a farmer, but you saw a PC? Didn't that mean preach Christ?" And the farmer goes, "Oh, I thought it meant plant corn." Point being, there are many different avenues and ways that God will use you, particularly, and it's not about, always, what am I saying? Basically, you can take the same thing two different ways because we're all different people. So the way that this person gets to, $1 million may not be the way you get to $1 million. The way this person's family looks isn't the way that your family. You might not go to school right away, or you might not go to college at all. Like, there's a lot of different paths that the Lord could have for you, and I think comparison just puts God into a box, because it's like, well, I want this for you, but you're trying to do it the way I did it for them, but I have it for you a different way that may not look like anybody else. So
that's true.
Anyway, that was a story.
No, that's good. No, that's good. Did you hear that in a sermon?
No, I read it in a book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The book was called Live Before You Die by Daniel Kalinda. Available now. I mean, this wasn't an ad, but she was looking at me like, "Are you going to say the book?"
Because I was like, okay, a book. I live with him because we're married, so I'm like, what books do you read? I was like, okay, you got C.S. Lewis, if you got Daniel Kalinda.
She said, "Have you read? Have I seen you read?"
Oh, it's like, what?
Did you read?
What book was that? I'm sorry, you read it sometimes when you want to.
Anyway, it was in the book that I read.
Okay, thank you. Yes, no, it's good. I feel like you told me that before, but yeah, I think this is something I've been struggling with in a way that I didn't expect. I think for me right now, like I mentioned, struggling with comparing with people who are fit and things like that, like look a certain way, or just a lot of insecurities. And I think it's just because my body is different now than I've been used to most of my life. So it's I feel like a lot of times we may compare then with someone where we're insecure about. So it's asking Jesus, help us be secure. And I guess that's why he says, focus on your calling, focus on God. Just kind of tunnel vision, in the sense of when we're just looking ahead on what God calls us to. How would I be insecure if I'm the only one it's like I'm the only one it sounds bad to say I'm the only one I'm thinking about. I'm not saying to be selfish, but you know what I mean? It's how can I be insecure when there's no one to compare me with? It's just this is who I am. This is life. I'm a person. That's just what we look like, kind of thing. But
yeah. Speaking of what you just said.
Oh.
Let's bring the Bible into this. I like this scripture a lot.
Okay, he's turning pages.
Okay.
And we're reaching Philippians.
This is Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4. This is the NLT version, but it says, "Don't be selfish." Okay? It's hard to be selfish and compare yourself to other people. Did I say that right? I think you got what I'm.
You can
you
just
get
elaborate.
What I'm saying. Okay.
Oh.
Well, I'm saying, it's telling us not to be selfish. So when we're unselfish, we don't need to compare. That's what I was saying before. Selfishness makes me compare because it's I want that. But if I'm not being selfish, I don't need that. I have.
You're not thinking about what you want.
Right.
You're thinking about God. Okay, that's better than what I was. Yeah, that's a better way than what I was saying.
Don't try to impress others. If you're not trying to impress anybody, there's another reason that, comparison doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
I'm comparing myself to this person in basketball or whatever because I'm trying to impress whoever else is on the court. I don't need to do that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Be humble. Well, comparison, gone. No room for comparison and humility. If Jesus was comparing himself to people, he would have never died on the cross.
Wow.
Why would he? Anyway.
Maybe get that life. Or, yeah.
And think of others as better than yourself. Now that is like the opposite of comparison.
That's true. That's true. That is the opposite.
That was just verse 3. And we had 4 different, topics right there on how to get rid of comparison. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. And think of other people as better than yourself. That is scripture. In case we were wondering how to combat this thing. The next verse is, if you want to keep going, don't look out only for your own interest, but instead take an interest in others as well. So I feel like that is like celebrating when somebody else gets something that you want, or, has something. Instead of comparing, it's like, you're happy for them, which is hard to do sometimes, but
goes back to the don't be selfish thing.
Yeah, ties it all together.
That's good. Can I see?
Yeah.
So, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. May Jesus help us do those things.
I'm telling you, man.
No,
That's good life advice.
Yeah.
In 2 verses.
Yeah. Like if we're really trying to live that way, like not trying to impress others, not being selfish and thinking others is better than ourselves, like actually considering them better than ourselves, then when we look at others, we're like, oh, I'm glad that they look like that. I'm glad that they're happy. I'm glad that they get to go on these vacations. Like, that's great for them. Like, you could truly say that because you're thinking of others as better than yourselves. You're loving them. You're, showing an interest in them and like, oh, it's great. Like, you can just hear them and not be jealous, the whole 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. I think another thing for me is also learning how to be content where you are, because I think a lot of it is we just want to be happy and enjoy our lives, right? Like we want to be happy with where our life is, like period. Like yes, that's just it. So it's like when we see others seemingly enjoying, or I should say see others have something that we think would bring us joy or bring enjoyment into our lives, or we see someone and we're like, man, if I just had what they had, or whatever it is, or if I just look like they looked, whatever it is, then that I think that leads to a big reason why we compare, and we're like, oh, maybe I'm not happy, or maybe I'm not content, or maybe whatever, because I don't have what they have, or I don't look like how they look, or maybe I'm not married because I don't look like that, or whatever it is. So I feel like, I guess it's like, how do we be content in the season that we're in? Paul says he's been rich, he's been poor, but he's been content he could be content. You learn to be content in every season. Did he say you learn to be?
I think you said,
to content in every season. So that I feel like that's a key for me of being content where I am, and being content how I am, and even how I look. And not to say that you become complacent. Like, I can be content how we are with our current budget, but that's not to say I shouldn't work to try to be out of debt and things like that. It's just, and I can be content with how I look now in the same way, but that's not to say I should not try to continue working out and eating healthy, or, try to lose any weight I want. But so, I guess that's a big question. How to be content and also not complacent in every season, wherever you are.
Well, I feel like I have an answer, but
that's great.
It's one of those, it's a very, I call it a pastoral answer, because you know how they answer those hard questions without really answering the questions? Because this is how we could do it. How do you be content? Because that's the question. In all the ups and downs in life and where you're at without becoming complacent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we look at the Bible and we see who did it. Jesus. How did he do it?
Pray.
Exactly. He was extremely secure in his identity, one.
Yeah.
It's hard for you not to be content when you know who you are. He knew exactly who he was. And 2, he had undeniable trust in the Father.
Yeah.
Unshakable faith. It's hard for you not to be content. I mean, it's hard for you to not be content with where you are when you have undeniable trust in the Lord. Like, as hard as it is for even me to say this out loud, like, if I'm not content, there's some lack of trust in God. Because there's some fear there that it's never going to get better. Or it's like, are you going to help me, Lord? Like, where are you? If I was truly 100% content without being complacent, I feel like there's a level of trust in the Lord there that brings my contentment. And I think that's what Paul had learned, was trust. I think you can swap trust and content pretty interchangeably. I mean, I don't know for sure. This is what I felt when you asked me that.
Thanks.
I feel like that's an answer without really answering,
No, that is answering.
Okay.
Because asking God to help me trust you, but also it's allowing yourself to, like, for me, it's like, okay, where are the fears, like, that I need God to heal me from, or, like, where am I not trusting? Because I think, to your point, like, that's what I was thinking about, like, a lot of it's, like, impatience. It's like, will I ever even get out of debt? Or how long will it be? Or, like, when will it happen? Will it happen? And will I be too old by that point where I can't have fun? And things like that. And not trusting that he will do it and he will help you and he will get you out, kind of thing. I was thinking about the Israelites. They became discontent when they were in it. Like, they felt like they were stuck there, or it's been so long, and they just don't know when. Because they didn't know when they were going to reach the promised land. What they knew was that they were going to, that God promised it, but they didn't know when. And that can be tough sometimes, in the sense of, like, if you don't know, like, for them, they didn't know when, they hadn't seen it, so they were growing distrustful, or they were growing impatient, right? Like, so they created their own Baal, or they begged for quail, meat, so they, did the whole 9.
Yeah, I mean, we see that time and time again and throughout the Bible, where there's like a mix of a lack of trust and impatience, and that leads to a bad result every time, with like Abraham and
Saul.
Ishmael.
I was thinking about somebody else. Abraham and Ishmael.
China, and the Israelites, as we were just talking about,
Yes.
But. And
I was thinking Saul too, because I'm reading that story like how Saul didn't wait for Samuel to arrive to do what he was supposed to do. I just read this.
It's okay.
It was like Saul was supposed to wait 7 days before he fought. I just can't remember. Either sacrifice or fight. That's crazy. I literally just read this 2 days ago. That just shows I need to read it again. But the point is, he didn't wait for Samuel. Instead, he just did it himself. Because he was like, it's all... Because I think it's because the enemy was pressing in, and the soldiers were getting, like... The soldiers were also getting impatient, like, are we gonna, like, they're coming in on us, or something like that. Where's my Bible? Because I can't be out here.
Okay, yeah.
It's in 1 Samuel.
Yes.
I know that because I'm still in 1 Samuel, and I just... That's crazy. It's like let's see.
In the meantime, should I entertain the folks listening with a joke or two?
Sure.
Okay. Christian jokes or like...
I'm like, what?
Oh, man. Okay, so it's all fair game. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired. About why can't you trust stairs? Because they're always up to something, and they always let you down. Oh, okay, some more. You should never eat a clock because it's too time consuming.
Okay.
Okay.
Just how you were sharing it, man. I'm sorry. I was in the wrong chapter for a minute, so I was like, oh wait, that's not it. So it is 1 Samuel 13. Let me speak it to the mic. It is 1 Samuel 13, and starting in verse 8. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and Saul's men began to scatter. So he said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings." And Saul offered up the burnt offering. Just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrived, and Saul went out to greet him. "What have you done?" asked Samuel. Saul replied, "When I saw that the men were scattering, and that you did not come at the set time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering." "You have done a foolish thing," Samuel said. "You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command." And of course, he's talking about David there. But the point was, so he offered an offering and he was fighting Philistines. So it was both. But the point was that if Samuel or Saul was becoming impatient and was not trusting that Samuel would show up, he was becoming discontent where he was,
Yeah.
And then went ahead, and that's where the fallout was. He lost his throne, basically.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of his losing of his throne. He did something else too, and he really lost his throne. Anyway, yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
It's cool. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. It's wild in there, reading 1 Samuel. There's stuff that you're just like, wow, didn't know. It's like a real story book. Like, you really want to read what happens next, even though you know. It's like, I know David's going to be king, but how does he defeat the Goliath?
Right.
I know he's going to do it, but how does he... Anyway. I kept thinking you were going to say something.
I don't know. I was going to say, any more thoughts?
I think that was big. The trust, the patience. I feel like it's also easy access to compare. I was thinking about social media. It's like, even for me, like, I don't go on social media much. I go on there to post a verse or a story, and then I get off.
Yeah.
And sometimes I check on Facebook if I got a new friend request or something.
Yeah.
Or sometimes might check up, but even like, because I don't like to use social media because of the comparison and because of you can just get lost, just easily scroll over and over again. And I don't. I used to think, like, why would I care about seeing people's pictures? Like, I don't care. But now I'm like, I see, like, especially now that there's videos, like, oh my goodness. But I will say, like, it's even for me, like, when I get on there, a lot of times it's so easy to compare, like, oh man, like, they're already at that point, or oh man, they have their third kid, or oh man, they have a house, or all these things immediately hitting what we're wanting. And so I think for me, I'm wanting to work on contentment and really trusting God, like you said, of like trusting God will do his will for my life, and trusting that it's good and that he loves me, and thus finding contentment where I am in terms of like, maybe I could do more things that will bring joy in my season, in this time that I haven't been doing it because I've been sulking. Or like, I was thinking, like, something that we're praying about is like close friends, like friends that we love to hang out with.
Yes.
And I praise God for the community that we have. But I was thinking about how Jesus, because we were talking about how, like, look at Jesus, like, he knew who he was, and he's confident, he trusted God. You know how he made friends? He said,
He called them.
"Follow me."
So we gotta make a Twitter account and follow me.
I'm just saying he wasn't scared to go up to them and talk. That's the first step.
Right.
A random stranger, because he trusts God, he follows God, and he knows who he is, and he's not afraid of rejection necessarily. Like, he call like Nicodemus, and Nicodemus was like,
I was
scared, like, but he wasn't. He was like, okay, well, that was your choice. Like, I'm not afraid that you're gonna reject me. Like, What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, basically what you said. Like not everyone that he asked to follow him did.
Yeah, like the rich man, and
Yeah.
I think I know there was the rich man, and he didn't want to. And there was the man that was like, I have to say goodbye. What if I have to bury my dad's or after funeral? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I was thinking about like, one, God help me be not fearful of man. I keep asking that, so I can just talk to people. But there are things like that where it's like I feel like I feel like sometimes I'm limited because I have this budget, I have this amount of time, and things like that. But really, like, I can like find contentment and satisfaction where I am. Like, talk to people when I can, and like go out and do what we can. Like, go to small groups, meet people. We can do enjoyable things in the time that we have. Like, we have free tickets to things, or I can find a good book or write, or not be so glued to the TV. Just tell me, play a sport. Like, there are things that I can do to enjoy the time that I have where I am now, instead of looking to all the things that I want to be doing outside of the current means that I'm in, or outside of the current means that I have.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So may Jesus help me.
Yes, me too.
So this episode was really to help us dive deep.
I'll leave the people with this thought. A coffee table can make for a couch until more than one person sits on it. What does that mean? It means that when God calls you to be a certain person, you can try to be someone else for some amount of time, but it's not going to last always. Like a coffee table, you can sit on it, but you add more people on it, it's going to collapse. So do what the Lord called you to do. Don't try to be somebody you're not.
I don't know if the clap came through. Praise God. Thank you. That was good, Ender. All right. So we will see you next time in our next episode on Simply Living. Thanks.
Peace.